Last time, we uncovered a secret blueprint, an economic superweapon designed for total, absolute control. Tonight, we're showing you how it was unleashed, how this idea jumped off the page and built the most powerful and monstrous empires of the 20th century.
Okay, quick recap, because you need to remember this. We're talking about corporatism, and no, it has nothing to do with your typical big company. This is a machine for total state economic control, where the house you think you own is really just a loan from the government, and every single worker, every single factory is forced into a national syndicate, all answering to the state.
But, a blueprint is just paper, right? It's just a theory, unless someone actually decides to build the machine. And that's the big question, isn't it? Who would build this, and what were they planning to do with it?
Well, the answer isn't in some dusty political textbook. It came from a brand new breed of ruler. A kind of ruler who looked at left-wing and right-wing and just saw them as total distractions. They had only one ideology, one true north, absolute raw power.
They're called developmental dictatorships. And I want you to picture a country literally hitting the fast-forward button on its own history, using absolute, unquestionable state power to modernize, to industrialize, and to build up its military at a speed that is, frankly, both breathtaking and absolutely terrifying.
And this right here, this is the key to the whole thing. Forget about purity, forget about ideology. These regimes were scavengers. They would steal an idea from Karl Marx in the morning and another from Adam Smith in the afternoon. It didn't matter. The only thing they cared about was, does this make us more powerful? Does this help us build our war machine faster?
So who was patient zero? Who was the first to take this economic superweapon and actually use it? Well, that would be Fascist Italy. And what Mussolini did was, in a twisted way, genius. He completely flipped the script. He took Karl Marx's idea of a class war and he made it global. Suddenly he's claiming that Italy isn't some big bad empire. No. Italy is the victim. It's a proletarian nation that has to fight a world war against the rich, plutocratic empires.
Their whole philosophy was everything in the state, and believe me, they meant it. They created this thing called the IRI, the Institute for Industrial Reconstruction. Think of it like a giant bureaucratic octopus whose tentacles just wrapped around everything: steel, shipping, you name it. By 1939, Fascist Italy had more state-owned industry than any other country in the world, except for one. And oh, don't worry, we're getting to that one.
But Italy was really just the prototype, because now we have to talk about Nazi Germany. They took this blueprint and, well, they made some truly terrifying upgrades.
See, the Nazis did it a little differently. Instead of outright owning everything like the Italians, they focused on something way more subtle, but just as powerful: control. They created what they called a managed economy. On paper, you still owned your business, but in reality, you answered to the state, period.
And Hitler himself made the new rules of the game chillingly clear. You can keep the deed to your factory, sure, but you are no longer the boss. He said, capital will no longer rule, it will be ruled. Just like that, powerful businessmen were demoted. They became what the Nazis called economic functionaries, just another cog in the state's war machine.
I mean, think about it. The powerful elites were completely brought to heel. Business owners who pushed back were called white Jews and threatened with expropriation. The government literally told you what to produce, how much of it to produce, and the price you were going to sell it for. And the workers? They were basically conscripted. You didn't choose your job, you were assigned one, all to create near full employment to fuel their massive rearmament program.
Okay, but now comes the twist. The one that's going to make you question pretty much everything you learned in history class. This is the connection that nobody ever wants to talk about.
What if I told you that fascism's mortal enemy used the exact same weapon? Lenin looked at Russia and saw the same thing Mussolini saw in Italy: a backward, underdeveloped proletarian nation. And his solution was just as shocking: state capitalism. You heard that right. His new economic policy wasn't just some theory. It was a hardcore strategy to force industrialization by creating massive state-controlled trusts and syndicates. Does that sound familiar?
And you know who saw this connection perfectly? Mussolini himself. He basically said, look, I don't care what you call it, state capitalism, state socialism, it's all the same thing. You end up in the exact same place, total state control, and, as he put it, the complete bureaucratization of the economic activities of the nation.
They were waving different flags, they were saluting different leaders, but if you look under the hood, the architecture was the same. The Soviet Ghost Plan, the fascist planning boards, it was the same machine, it just had a different paint job. The engine of total control was identical.
So right now, you're probably thinking, okay, this is a crazy history lesson, but this all died in a bunker in Berlin in 1945, right? Wrong. So wrong. Its ghost is alive and well, and it's more powerful than ever.
You just have to look at modern China. Yeah, the flag is red, but the economic engine is pure corporatism. They have this thing called the United Front, and it's not some quaint political slogan. It's a massive department of the state with one job: to integrate and control private industry. All those tech giants, all those massive factories, they have market freedom, sure, but they are all ultimately tethered to the strategic goals of the state. It was Deng Xiaoping's masterstroke, using the tools of capitalism to build an even stronger communist state.
So, what have we really uncovered here? When you put all the pieces together, the fascists, the Nazis, even the communists, what's the grand theory that ties them all together?
It all comes down to this quote right here. This is the master key. They completely redefined socialism. It wasn't about class war inside your own country anymore. Oh no, it became a global struggle between nations, the poor proletarian nations against the rich plutocratic ones. Nationalism became their new socialism.
And that's how they all ended up at the same destination. It didn't matter if they called themselves fascists or national socialists or communists. They all used a hyper-centralized form of state capitalism to build their own power. And in the process, they crushed any real worker autonomy, replacing it with a new, all-powerful class of bureaucrats.
The flag was different. The uniform was different. The salute was different. But the goal? The goal was always the same: build up the nation's productive power as fast as possible and ensure the absolute, total, unquestionable supremacy of the state. And what this all reveals is that corporatism isn't just some dusty, forgotten theory from a history book. It's a recurring piece of political technology, a blueprint for power that is incredibly adaptable, incredibly seductive, and, as history shows, unbelievably dangerous. In the end, it all boils down to one single chilling slogan, one you hear in revolutions all over the world: patria or muerte, homeland or death. It's the ultimate promise of the collective and the ultimate, final threat to the individual.